Yate. Hey, mabuhay. Buenos dias to certain parts of the world. And good afternoon to all of you out there in Instagram world. Welcome to today's episode. Today is Tuesday, June something. June 16th, that's right. Medicine Tribe Television today presenting Real Medicine, another episode where we drop in with relatives from all walks of life all around the world to discuss the heart of the issue of the human condition and experience. Today's going to be a very special episode. I want to just take a moment and welcome you all in and give thanks to the Creator for this day of this breath of life. Womatum, thank you for allowing us to have this platform, for allowing us to have our voices be heard and be able to speak in this way to our community. And we pray for a good conversation to be felt and reverberated across the interwebs, and perhaps that many people can gain some knowledge from today's chat. Today's guest is finish that one up. Today's guest is a brother of mine, a dear friend, a inspiration, a leader, a dear brother, a rapper, an author, a producer, and one half of the political hip-hop duo, Dead Prez. His name is Stic or Knum Mwata Ibomu. He's a friend of mine, and I'm very excited to speak with him today and gain some perspective and hear his words of knowledge. So let's get him on today, shall we? There he is. Hey,
My brother.
Ibomu.
What it do, Bear? Big
Yo,
Bear.
you look good, bro. You look good. I miss you, bro.
Same way, man. Same way. We in here.
Thank you so much for taking a moment to chat and check in, man.
Man, thanks for having me, man. And salute to the whole Medicine Tribe, man, for the new album, Take Your Power Back, man.
Thank you so much.
That's real medicine, bro.
Thank you so much. Congratulations to you as well. Workout 2 as well. I was actually last night, got all pumped up, and sometimes it's weird because I'll get that like late night need to like get it out.
Yes.
And I was in the garage where I got my bag and everything in there, and I was blasting it. And yeah, it's a beautiful piece of work. Thank you so much for doing that and allowing me as well to be a part of that too.
Oh man, give thanks, bro. You know it means the world to me. You know what I mean? For sure.
Well, I wanted to first of all offer my condolences to your community, as I know you are all grieving. We are all grieving with you for the loss of yet another brother murdered at the hands of the police, Rashard Brooks. We will say his name. Mm-hmm. And with so much that is happening, and may he rest in power and his family have justice and peace. There's so much that I'm so curious, where your heart's at, et cetera, because you've literal skin in the game since you were like a kid, you know what I'm saying? And thinking about your history and your past and the ways that you have shown up for your community, for Black folks, for people of color, and using your voice in these ways. With all of that's stirring in the country, how is your heart? How is your mental health? How is your spirit?
Right on, man. Yeah, my condolences go to everybody who directly is experiencing these atrocities, as well as people who are indirectly, which is everybody, right? Where I'm at with it is some days is more challenging than others, just personally. The kind of heaviness that's in the world right now, is something that, you know, for the last 30 years I've been feeling.
Right.
And you know, a lot of times it it has felt like it don't even matter.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, uh, so I've learned coping mechanisms.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because you know, uh, it's either that or lose it. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful. I'm very grateful right now that the world is paying attention to these issues a lot more. And but it triggers a lot of stuff in me that I've 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 done a lot of holistic work to just manage, you know.
Right.
And there's a lot of things now that is triggering that uneasiness and that
It's like coming back.
yeah, you know. But that's not a bad thing, you know.
Right.
It should matter. It should make us uneasy. It should make us feel uncomfortable. Um, you know, so it's, you know, I'm not complaining about that, but it's made me ramp up um, my mental health practices so that I'm not overwhelmed by this little small moment
Mm.
where people could pay attention for 2 months and go back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
And then people who are advocating for change, you know, where are you left? You know, where are you at in that uh, struggle, in that fight? You know,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of your just maintaining your sanity and keeping your hope and keeping your positivity in a world that don't often care
Mm-hmm.
what we going through. So I'm kind of in between that space of excited and grateful for the activity, but also I know like now more than ever I need to stay on my self healing practices just to manage the all the negative energy. You know what I mean?
Sure. And I mean, I could, because in a sense, as you're saying, like for the last 30 years, this isn't your first rodeo in like seeing uh uh you know uh death in the communities at the hands of police violence, and of course this systematic racism has been going on since colonization. And in our lifetimes we've seen time and time again these kinds of situations that have become more public, of course with the onset of social media and camera phones and all this stuff. uh, um, but and as you were saying, like when you have to sort of put it away in order to make sure that your heart and mind can maintain some sense of stability, to make sense of it all,
Mm-hmm.
wherein it could be so easy to be overcome with the anger and the need to lash back. So you're bringing it inside, and now that it's sort of triggered again, uh, you're getting all these like almost PTSD, experience. So, um,
Mm-hmm.
what? But within this inflection point, because I wonder if you'd agree with this, and I think you would, in the sense that like each time that we've sort of seen something like this happen, that of course that fear of it's going to last for a number of weeks or months or whatever, and like perhaps on like some kind of state by state or nationwide effort, there'll be some kind of reform, if you will, or what have you. But then a numbness will sort of appear again, and another 5 years go by, like after Ferguson or whatever, and then it becomes a national debate again. So is there something within this moment right now that you feel might be different than the last moments we've seen, that do give you that sense of hope that things are shifting into a different way?
Right on. Well, I certainly hope so.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I hope, this is a turning point. There's a new generation at the forefront, right? A lot of younger energy right now. Um, a lot of unique things, are even happening. You know, since when I was the age of a millennial right now, you know, let's say the mid 90s, and Rodney King was the brother at the time who had beaten. There was certain, you know, actions, and certain organizations got more recruits, and you know, certain moves was attempted to be made. But I think in this era of social media, one of the newer things we saw was a worldwide response to something that was local, you know, in the U.S. So I think that's hopeful. I think the fact that this whole COVID pandemic happened to have everybody on ice, so it's played a role in the climate and the restlessness, and just there was no distractions. There's no sports. There's no all these different things.
Right.
So people are like, boom, they on their phone and they seeing another one, another one, you know. So I'm hopeful that it's no longer a debate that systemic oppression is a reality. And now how creative can we be in the solutions?
Absolutely. I mean, speaking of, like, just dating it back for a second, because as you have been actively involved in the art of expression in the face of oppression for so long, since you were like a kid, can you tell us like a little bit about that song that you wrote that they prevented you from singing when you were like in 10th grade or whatever? That like was like that moment where, like, I think what it was like for Black History Month, and it like sparked this movement within your own fellow students to like advocate for or boycott the classes and pick at the school. Like, was that like a moment for you as a kid that like shifted your consciousness to the space where you were like for what was about to unfold in your life? Like, was that like a...
Yeah, that was definitely that moment, you know what I mean? Because I was in the hip hop for battling and you know, art form of you know, spitting your lyrics. And a teacher was like, yo, you always rapping, but why don't you rap about something that matters in so many words? And she gave me an opportunity to perform at the first ever Black History Month acknowledgement at Wakulla High School, right? Now, I think this was like 88, 89 or something when I was there. And now, if you think about that, in 88, 89, this is the first time this school had ever acknowledged just Black history. Right? That's all. Just, you know, our contribution to this whole equation and what we've been through. It was the first time ever. Talk about systemic oppression. Our sidewalk to walk into the school was a rebel flag. It was, the hedges was cut in the Confederate flag. And this was like the way you get in school every day, right? Right. So when we talk about systemic, how does that affect you? You know what I mean? Like everything is not on the news, somebody getting shot, police killing somebody. Some of these things are really subtle and really intimidating, and maintaining on a lot of levels. So for me, having that experience, and you know, the principal was like, he was the Trump of my era. And, you know what I mean? And you know, he was like, you're not gonna say it, cut me off in the middle. And I saw the students stand up in a way that inspired me. Just like now, you know, we used to seeing justice not served. Like we expect justice not to be served. Right. But when the community responds in a way that's heroic and stands up in that moment, it as a cultural, you know, I was just a rapper. You know what I mean? Like that moved me, you know, and I saw the power we had.
Saw the power in it, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that really made me say, when I rap, when I make music, I know it a way that it matters more than how nice my bars are. You know what I'm saying? It matters to help be a voice to things that's voice to the voiceless, or to things that are not a perspective that's not being represented. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Man. So that was it, and from there I got adopted by communities across our communities, like religious groups, Nation of Islam, churches,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
Greek organizations, Alphas, Qs, um, uh, street gangs, you know what I mean? Revolutionary organizations all said, that dude they tried to railroad and they kicked him out of school. We're not gonna let that young brother just be out here and get lost in the
Right.
sauce. So you are welcome here. And I got mentorship from all these different parts of our community. Um, and it definitely gave me an education, that I'm still benefiting from in terms of what I've been able to do in my life and certainly in my music career as well, bro.
Were you able to, in that experience, were there elders that sort of showed up, and like some older fellas, or even some like some aunties that sort of like in your schooling in those areas, in those groups, in those communities that you can look to now, maybe perhaps they're still in your life, or that they were just big instrumental like teachers for you? Were those people present?
For sure, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, there's not enough praise I could give.
Right.
Because even I had one foot in the street, still one foot in the struggle,
Right.
and I made a lot of knucklehead moves and spent some time in the box, and you
Yeah.
know, but that's part of this part of the reality that we live too. But a lot of my OGs like Babatunde Imhotep was a Haitian brother from Haiti, from New York via Haiti, and he made frames and he sold prints, like different artists prints, and he would frame it like by hand, and he
Mm.
was just that kind of hustler, you know what I mean? Like, what can I do? And boom. But he taught me the 5% lessons, you know what I mean? And he taught me uh, a lot of things that would be the foundation of me knowing that my mind creates my reality a
Mm.
lot,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the confidence to be a self uh, learner, right? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? World.
Sure.
And so, but he's one of many other. There are many sisters, but brothers in particular. I really needed that because of
Right.
how me and my older brother and my dad's relationship. So I
Mm-hmm.
learned boxing. A master carpenter named Brother Kufu taught me boxing in his yard. Took me fishing. My uncle Bo took me archery. You know, um, Alan Floyd, who is Beyonce's manager today, was my first manager right when I got kicked out of school. He was like, "You coming with
Wow.
me?" He taught me the music business, taught me how to ghostwrite.
Wow.
I'm so rich in
Mm.
community and experiences, man. I can't. There's not enough praise I could give. You know.
Wow. Yeah, because like, I mean, you know, just to go back to like a minute about where when I met you, and when I started to like learn about I mean, I knew about your music. I knew about y'all's music for many years. I mean, for me, like when I was growing up, um, by the time I was 19, I believe was when I actually first started listening to Dead Prez, and it was Immortal Technique and Dead Prez, and it was like the two just transformational music for me, because it was
That's
like
the problem.
you know what I'm saying? Like it was like I was like, oh shit, this is like really speaking to, you know, what I believe in. And, you know, uh, when I think about how, when I met you and like learning about your lifestyles, I was so inspired because like, you know, uh, having this lifestyle that you have, which is so holistic and so, focused on wellness, um, and that kind of, um, care, like in your most recent Insta post, or one of your most recent Instagram posts, you said, I wrote it down right here. In a world where oppression, racism, ignorance, and suffering is the norm to so many of us, self-care is the only real care we get. Mental health is not a given. It has to be nourished and protected. no matter what is going on around me, it is my responsibility to successfully manage what is going on within me. And I loved reading that because, you know, those kinds of teachings from, um, you know, from almost like a collection where you say like, you know, your training from these elders and from these different groups of folks reminded you and almost triggered into you like this like reminder that your self-awareness and your whole being is what's going to be the most powerful tool for you. And that brought all that poetry to you and brought all that spirituality to you. I mean, like, I don't know if many folks know about this about you, but you're like a master archer and like, or you know what I'm saying? Like I was like seeing the video and I was like, damn, that's just on it. And like, you know,
Definitely not master, but I feel you.
I mean, you know, this is my opinion, right? Like, but
Yeah.
just that art of that flow, and like as you're speaking about these folks that have taught you, I just think like, you know, you're a Pisces, right?
I am. Yep.
Yeah, then that be like water, you know what I'm saying? And so being able to be a witness to that holistic lifestyle that you have adopted and have so committed your life to, those life mantras that you wrote in another post that said, observe the chaos, observe the clarity, contribute your service. Like at a time where folks could be so confused with the action of going within rather than, you know, a non-action in their perspective of like, I gotta be in the streets, I gotta like do this, I gotta do that, you know. I'm right there with you with that same message. And I wonder, with the same message of like going within and going within, where all of our great teachers have taught us that this is where the power stands. And once you dedicate your life to that going within, that you have that much power to go outwards and go without and give more. I mean, has that lifestyle and that commitment to that lifestyle ultimately created a wholeness where you feel more powerful than you ever did before?
Well, absolutely yes. I'm more in touch with what I can do, right?
Yeah.
I'm not at the pinnacle of that, right? I'm cultivating. I'm working
Yeah.
on, you know, the things that block me. You know, my self doubt, my confusion, um, letting go of old shit. You know, like all these things are getting in the way of the flow of, you know, really being present and
Mm-hmm.
impactful. So, and I know I need to do that work to really serve, you know, to my highest capacity. But I
Mm-hmm.
also know the urgency of now,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't wait until, you know, you reach some mystical, you know, perfect state or place.
Totally.
You know, you have to do your best. So there's a balance that you try to seek. You know what I mean? Um, so for me in this particular moment in COVID, like right now,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
my best service I think is the lifestyle that I live, and for people who are like overwhelmed with everything that's going on, to provide a certain perspective, you know, because I've been overwhelmed for many years,
Mm-hmm.
and I just think it's helpful. I don't think I have all the answers or even a answer, but
Mm-hmm.
it's helpful when you know there are things you can do in your power, in your control as an individual to maintain sanity, to
Mm-hmm.
maintain your energy, your health, while we have these conversations, while we have these demonstrations, while we try to work on solutions that's going to matter, man. But I have to say, me coming across your music
Mm-hmm.
was deeply spiritually impactful for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was doing a radio show. Long story short, uh, we were trying to make sure I'm playing music from all cultures and
Right.
everywhere. And so to be honest, I didn't know a lot of indigenous artists, etc. So I started looking and researching. And you came up in one of my researches, and I was like, all right, who's this cat with all the tattoos? And you were doing Warrior People on the Gondola. I know I
Oh, yeah.
bro, that song, that vibration, that energy, right? I was like, who is this? Like this, oh man, And I connected and related. And then your album Darkest Night, I found that and just started banging it, and all my homies was like, "What's this folk shit?" You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And I'm like, "Bro, do you feel this? Like,
Right.
the way you guys were able to capture this global ensemble of people,
Mm.
and then deliver the medicine
Mm.
in the music and in the articulation of certain things like Aloha,
Mm-hmm.
the intro song Darkest Night,
Mm-hmm.
Budding Trees. These songs made me cry, bro. Like,
Oh man, yeah.
you know what I mean?
I feel
Because
you.
I know it's so much bigger than just making some music, man. This is medicine. And
Mm-hmm.
and it helped me as a man to see that side of myself in somebody else, in
Mm-hmm.
you and your brothers. And
Mm-hmm.
I knew I had that medicine tribe spirit in me
Mm-hmm.
too. But I hadn't fully been able to like allow that to express itself.
Mm-hmm.
So through your music and becoming a fan of you guys' movement, I was able to find that part of myself and be more comfortable, with it, man. And that was
Mm-hmm.
healing. And
Mm-hmm.
you guys are badass. You guys are a rebel band, but
Oh, thanks, bro.
you do it in a way like Bob Marley or Fela. It's sweet too.
Mm.
Like you figure out how to put the honey on the blade. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you gotta learn how you gotta rejoice
Yeah,
in the disparity in that sense.
yeah, man. So, and I really mean that. I really want people that are watching to know that your music has that effect. You
Mm.
know what I mean? It's a balance. It's masculine and yet it's feminine.
Mm-hmm.
It's uh, global, but yet it feels indigenous. It feels
Mm.
like it honors the true indigenous values, I should
Mm.
say. You know
Mm.
what I mean? So
Mm.
to me, Nahko Bear Medicine for the People looks like the future that I want to live in. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So
Wow.
yeah,
Thank you
so
so much for sharing that.
yeah,
I'm
man.
tuned. Thank you, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's for me it was so humbling to wake up that day in Nashville to a text from our mutual friend, and he was like, "Yo, Stick man from Dead Prez wants to come to your show tonight," and I was like, "This is obviously a joke." I was like, "There's no way that that's even a thing." And sure enough, you showed up. You came to sound check, and I just remember the moment that you walked into the room because you have such a mystical vibe and you got such a big light, big vibe anyways. And you rolled in and like you sat next to me and you were just like, "Man, I'm such a big fan." And I was just like, I feel like I almost cried because I was like, "What? Like, how is that even possible? You're Stick." And I was like, so humbled that me as an intuitive person as well, like as an Aquarius, and I have so many dear Pisces friends, and like you walk in and you sit there and you say these things, and we start to chop it up, and there was just this automatic, like, oh yeah, like obviously we're on that same level frequency, and like no wonder the divine has brought us together to
Right.
like speak and break bread in this way, and and uh, and then of course as I dove more into like who you are and got to meet your family and feel that alliance. Like it was so clear that even in confiding in you as my bro, through my own life, personal things, etc. Like it's just, I can look to your lifestyle and to your family and the ways that you live your life, and they help me, you know, and so I see that as being, as that camaraderie right there, you know,
So,
and there's that like shared experience of like, you know, as we seek to like learn the balance of that, of the divine masculine and the feminine, you know what I mean, and like being able to like look at those things in our lives, you know, for me, like I can look to you, you know, as like an older brother, and and learn from your experiences and learn from like uh, your teachings, etc. So like to know that and to be humbled in the knowledge that, you know, prior to even meeting that my music was triggering a good thing within you is so beautiful to hear. You know what I mean? And
yeah, it's that,
and yeah.
I got that shit, man.
Oh man, it's just
Bro,
beautiful to witness, man. You know how that music. And I wanted to ask you too, because like you know full well the power of intention behind poetry, and and how you deliver it, right?
mm, mm, mm.
And like you kind of mentioned it, you know, in regards to me and my band, but like, you know, this future that you know is ideal, that we read about, that we pray for, that we like, you know, in incremental moments each generation, you know, we are, I believe we are slowly, of course, moving in towards this new world. And as we live right now in this very intriguing and fascinating moment of 2020 hindsight, you know, being in this place that we we have been, acknowledging the things that didn't work for us, you
Right.
know what I mean, and then looking at like 2020 perfect vision of future, you know, of perfect vision and sight, like within the frame of like music. I'm just, one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately within that is, as we watch the dismantling continue, you know, and I think 2020 absolutely is a moment, an inflection point that we can look to right now as being a much bigger picture of a shift, you know, and I wonder, like, even within the music industry, and we've talked a little bit about this before, but I mean, you know, for independent artists, and for, you know, in general, musicians, etc., like the industry is just a bunch of bullshit, and it does not support artists. It's very, 1% driven, and it's very unorganized in that sense, where, you know, you gotta like, you got to really get to a space where you can strong arm and take that power back in that sense, I guess.
Right.
Um, and so
Facts.
I wonder like, in your perspective, as we watch, um, you know, some of the things that even, you know, great Papa fucking Bob, great fucking Papa Bob would say, as like, you know, Babylon Burns and whatnot, like,
Yeah,
you
man.
know, what kind of future, uh what kind of music world, like I can't even imagine like the kind of art and poetry, and frequency that's going to come out of this, you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, are you inspired right now? Are you like, are you creating? Are you writing? Is that
Bro,
flowing right now?
yeah, well, I'm definitely inspired, but I'm not working on a particular project. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
I feel you.
My inspiration starts with just I'm open. You know what I mean? Like I'm super open. I'm absorbing. I'm paying attention,
Yeah,
and and you know I keep doing that until something starts to hang on. You know, and
right.
just register on my frequency, right?
Yeah,
But what I've noticed, even uh, literally in the last few days, is a lot of artists in the you know the new young artists, the trap artists, whoopie whoop, are speaking to the issues right now.
yeah,
So you know, Lil Baby, I've been people from the streets have been like, yo, you heard little baby going in.
His new
Right?
track's fire. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or what was the other brother? Young Thug. I heard Young Thug got something. I ain't heard it, but I'm hearing this from the street that different artists are now finally using their great power and platform to speak to issues that matter to the community. And it's not, but the thing is, it's not new. We know, but and those same artists could have chosen at any time to share their platform in certain ways. But what's interesting about the music game is that's a sacrifice when it's not popular to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So a lot of guys and a lot of guys who don't necessarily consider themselves like my platform is for the people's movement, right? I understand that. I understand their reluctance because I've been one of them groups that's been out there front line, and you ask yourself, where's the support at? You know,
you know, exactly.
In a lot of scenarios. So I think people's lack of speaking to certain issues is not always because they're not on the side of the issue. It's that they're trying to play chess in a systemic, oppressive world.
Right.
And they're like, man, I don't know. I'm trying to get this money. Like, nobody was coming to give me no money. And now I can't get money, and I'm going to mess it up talking about this and that.
Yeah.
So I understand that. And in compassion, I'm glad that some of those artists who have gotten rich and whatever they was trying to get to now recognize that it's bigger than that. Even people like Jay-Z, you know what I mean? A comrade who I've worked with and I personally respect him. He has not always been movement first, so to speak.
Yeah, sure.
But as he matured, as he solidified and got himself in different positions, I think he's at least tried to, or not at least, he's definitely used his platform to address certain issues as far as prison, as far as racism and just justice on different levels. So I encourage that. I'm glad that that's happening. I hope that more artists can find a balance, that they don't have to sacrifice their livelihood to speak to issues, but that also understand that, you're not separate from the reality that's out here. And with the talent you have, speaking to these issues in a dope way is gonna be double. That's what Pac was. Everybody wanted to do Pac. Pac was popping. He was popular. He was on the radio. He was acting. He was doing everything. And every time he got on the mic, Pac made sure you know that where he's coming from and what
he stands.
You know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of these young cats who are fearless and who are brave and intelligent and talented have an opportunity right now to seize this moment and communicate and change the trajectory of the next guys coming behind us. You know what I mean? So I salute what's happening. I want to see more, and we as a community did that by standing up and changing, making it popular to be about something right now. And if we go back to sleep, the artist's gonna go back to shucking and jiving. You know, so it's know that we did that as a community. We made the artists have to stop talking about BS and address these issues to even be relevant. So it's good. Yeah,
Hope. Yeah, I think what we'll begin to see, as you mentioned, I mean, even in in the indigenous community as well, like hip hop has been, something that we adopted from African culture, that we, saw the expression from oppressive, living, and captured that within that. And so and honestly, if you want to talk about it like this, I mean, that's what folk music, really began as, was storytelling as an act of revolution. And, you know, as it moved from, you know, into blues and into hip hop and into like jazz and into, you know, music about the land, etc. You know, it became a way of worship. It became a way of praise. It became a way of, you know, keeping the oral traditions alive. You know, and then, you know, I think that what I've witnessed even in the indigenous communities, like way of expressing through hip hop, has has commonly, you know, there's this cry for help in this like almost in a victim state where you know that narrative continues to get spoken of over and over and over again. And what I think is going to be more powerful now is speaking to the future, speaking to like speaking into existence the design in which you want to have be that new world, wherein we can say, here, let's name these specific things. And I think this is, I think you do this as well, but I think it's very powerful to specifically name things in your in this music. You name them, and by naming them, you either disarm them through how you approach speaking about it, and then you also empower these things and the people who are speaking them as they repeat them back to you or repeat them back to themselves. And so you empower them through creating this frequency language that's going to continue to be like right. And so if we're speaking to the building of a future, rather than the victimhood of a past, we can say, okay, we know what we've been, and that we didn't like that. That didn't work for nobody, and it's not working right now. So let's design it as futurists. Let's design this future, and as architects, you know, in that way. And I think, I think you're absolutely right. I think, you know, with a lot of these young guys that are coming out, as well as ones that are coming up right now, that messaging and that direction is going to take much more precedence because we're seeing actual results in pushing culture, in pushing society into a new framework.
Facts, facts. And let me not just say the newcomers, you know what I mean? There's people who've been on the front lines who are up and coming also, you know, like my son General, you know, he's a brother that's front lines and one of the top 5 MCs in the world, in my opinion. So he's got that balance, you know. He been in the street and he frontline in, you know, movements to push the police back and stand up for justice. So he's somebody that I respect a lot, you know, as well.
Well, I love you so much, bro.
Love you, man. You already know. Mahalo.
Yeah. Mahala back.
Mahalo back.
Yeah, bro. I was you know, I got my archery set up out here finally. That's one thing I could say like that was pretty dope that happened, you know, during quarantine, etc. because, you know, like I had the time to, you know, get all this area set up. So I've been doing that, and every time I go out there I think about you, and I think like, damn, bro, like next level, let's get on that horse and doing that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like that's crazy talk. Yo, it's crazy talk. I think about my ancestors doing that stuff and be like, damn, that's crazy shit. Like, you know, but I'm out there with my horses on the weekend and I go ride them, you know, and I'm getting them prepped for that kind of work because I'm like, yo, like that just drops me in, you know. But man, I just want to just say, you know, thank you so much for taking the time to chat today and offer these perspectives and these wisdoms, and you know, give some massive love to your amazing wife and to your beautiful boys, and yeah, man. Yeah.
And send to the tribe, man. Give all the homies big hugs and yeah, I'm enjoying the new music, and yeah, I really appreciate you guys. You know what I mean? On every level.
Thank you so much, brother. I love you, bro. I'll talk to you soon. Mahalo.
All right. Bless up.
Long tune. Yeah. That was Stic, yo. Oh man, I feel so filled up. If you guys haven't checked out any of his new works. He's got so much on the table to offer. Go check out his Instagram. And if you are into, exercise or like training or any kind of like, I know y'all listen to music. So like if you want to get pumped up and listen to Stic's workout album, there's one and there's two. So he's got two different ones. But his second one just recently came out, and it's called Workout 2, and it'll fire you right up. It'll fire you right up. It gets you right in the mood to drop into your breath work and drop into your body, etc. Big gratitude to Stick for joining us today on this awesome chat. He's just a solid bro, a beautiful light, a big inspiration and teacher for me, and I know for so many. And the work that he has done in the Black community, the work he's done and through hip hop, through activism, through his presence as an author, as a producer, as a father, is absolutely one that we should all look at for inspiration and for our own guidance in those ways. So, whoo, yeah, thanks once again, Stick, for stepping in and sharing. Love him so much, and thank you guys all for tuning in as well. This has been a big learning experience doing these episodes, and yeah, and it's been very inspiring to like get to check in with all these amazing folks that we've been talking to, and we'll just continue to do this thing, you know what I mean? Like we'll continue to share the space as an opportunity to learn and grow with each other, and I hope that once again I want to send my condolences and my prayers and my love to all the families that are suffering right now, and specifically, of course, to Rashard Brooks's family, and may he rest in power, and may his family find peace and justice. And to all y'all who are going out in the streets, who are continuing to mobilize and gather here in the city of Portland, we have been gathering for the last 2 weeks. I absolutely want to advocate for everyone's safety. Wear your masks, wear your gloves if you got them. You know what I mean? Like, be courteous, be considerate. We are in a pandemic within a pandemic, and I think our marching in the streets and the protesting does have results, as we've been seeing across the nation. And obviously, with Trump's signing of the executive order today, it's not enough. It's hardly even a nod, but we will continue to fight for justice. We will continue to fight for further dismantling and defunding of police, and looking at like cities like the one in I think it was Jersey that in 2016 or 2017 completely dismantled their police department and established guardianships within their communities. And even though it has not been a perfect experiment even, it has actually produced amazing results, as I was listening to them speak about that and interviewing the folks on NPR this morning. So, there are things that are working within changing the system dramatically. And it's going to take a lot of persistence. It is something that we will not stop advocating for, marching for, until all of the statues that represent racism and slavery and genocide are taken down and replaced with true justice movement leaders, true warriors of change in our worlds, in our communities, in our country. And I am inspired. I believe that this pivotal inflection point is going to continue to take place throughout 2020 into the next fucking, generation to generation, you know what I mean? So thank you all for tuning in today. And I hope that you have a safe rest of your day. And I'll see you on Thursday. We will have another episode of Real Medicine, and then Father's Day weekend's coming up, and we will have a very special Sunday service. So, yeah. All right, yo. I think that's it for me. Yeah. Stay tuned. Stay in tune. Stay woke. Stay blessed. Stay in your hearts. Oh, Mateo. Love you all. Salud.